Hey guys, it's David from 3D Make It. Today we're talking about the E3 Turbo and a few things we've learned along the way. Let's go! Hey guys, so in the last video, we talked about using the Big Tree Tech E3 Turbo and getting it configured in Marlin. Everything's working great for us, and we just wanted to share a few things along the way, including leveraging that onboard thermistor and using it as an auto fan for the board in the control box. It's really simple, so let's just jump into it. So in our last video, we brought this wiring diagram up, and we showed how you could use the extruder 1 port and this port here on the board for the control fan to have them as auto fans for the Harmon and the controller cooling. Now, if you followed along and you did it this way, I just wanted to add something that we're going to be leveraging the thermistor that's actually on board the E3 Turbo to help us actually use a separate pin for this controller fan, which will actually make it a little bit better. So first thing is open VS Code. Now, once we're there, we're going to be using the chamber auto fan pin, and we can see that that's defined here as fan pin 1. Now, that's something that we've configured after the fact. So let's bounce in to our pins file. So if you don't remember, that's in the source in Marlin, pins, LPC 1769, and then we go down to the E3 Turbo. In our pins file, the first thing we see here is we're defining fan pin 1 as P0 or P202, sorry, and that's the pin. So if you remember, fan pin 1 is the pin that we want to use. Also, fan pin 1 is the one that we have in our diagram that we've plugged our control fan into. The other thing we have to do is actually enable the onboard thermistor. Now, by default, it's actually not defined. It's commented out. But the onboard thermistor is P1_30. And we're going to define that as our temp chamber pin. So we just need to copy this line in if you don't have it, and we're just going to put P130. And what that will do is actually activate, or at least make visible, the chamber pin as the onboard thermistor. So once all this is done, we can bounce back to our configuration.h, and we can go to the auto fan section. So again, if you want to find it quickly, you can search for the word auto_fan. It will bounce you down to this line here, and that's everything we need. So we've commented out our old definition. We don't need that. So we'll just leave it commented. So we should have E0 auto fan pin 2. We're going to add the chamber auto fan pin as fan pin 1. That's what we just defined. We're going to scroll down, and we're just going to make sure that we like these settings. So 30 is a fair setting for your fan pin to activate. So once that thermistor on the board gets above 30 degrees, it will turn the fan on full blast, which is great. This works perfectly fine. And when you use it this way, you actually get better cooling on the control fan, and it runs less. So I highly recommend doing this one change. In compiling Marlin for this board, we noticed a few weird things were happening. We were getting write errors. So if you're not familiar with the write errors, what happens is if you exceed your buffer on the board, so this board has 512 kilobits to write to. If you exceed that, it's going to throw a CRC error and go, whoa, I can't take any more information. But being the LPC 1769 chip has a ton of memory, that shouldn't happen. So we were seeing that problem, and it actually turned out that it was the EEPROM on the board that was full. And I'm not sure if I have a faulty EEPROM or if I was just trying to write too much to the EEPROM. But let me show you a few things about the EEPROM in Marlin just to clear that up for all of us. So again, we're going to bounce into VS Code, and we're going to use the same pins file as before. If we search for the word EEPROM, so that's 2 E's and PROM, you can see here that there's a section called onboard I2C EEPROM. Now, by default, these are uncommented, and you're using the onboard EEPROM. The onboard EEPROM is configured to use 4 kilobits, which is strange to me. because the actual EEPROM itself, this model, has 32 kilobits of memory. But regardless, this is the default config. We tried several things when writing the firmware to get that CRC error to go away, and including making this definition larger. So this is a hexadecimal number, but if you hover over it in VS Code when it's uncommented, it will tell you the value of the number as well. So right now that's 8,000. So by default, the 0x1000 is actually 4 kilobytes, and the board itself can handle up to 32. So the little EEPROM chip can handle 32. We went to the 28 here and then tried recompiling and doing everything we could, and it still didn't work. That's why you see this commented out. Commenting this out disables that onboard EEPROM, and you don't end up using it. So you're actually utilizing the full memory capacity of the board, but you are losing the onboard EEPROM. I haven't myself run into too many problems just by using the onboard memory. There are some people that have some issues here and there, but if you do run into that CRC error, commenting this section out will help. So those are the really two big things we've discovered about the E3 turbo board. Is the EEPROM seems to not use the full size of the EEPROM available, which causes some errors. And I'm not sure if mine, again, is faulty, but I couldn't change the memory size. So that's one thing that we want to watch out for. And the chamber auto fan and using the thermistor on the board is just a simple change, but it's something that actually hugely affects the performance of the fan. You get a better user experience out of using that feature. And frankly, it was disabled, and it's a huge feature on the board we should all be using. I hope you guys found that interesting, useful as a quick follow-up to the E3 board. Again, it's a great board. I think it's worthwhile looking at for probably any Creality machine at this point. It comes in at a nice price. It has some nice features built into it. And until next time, you guys are awesome. Thanks for following along. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Have a good one.